All right, we are at 12:01, so the ladies will have to catch up. Thanks for joining us for October's Lytho Lowdown Live. I am Britt Wilt. I am the Customer Experience Program Manager here at Lytho, and I'm excited to spend a little bit of your Friday with you. I will be moderating today's session, but if you have attended a Lytho Lowdown before, you may recognize a familiar face. We've got Kelly Copsey, who is an implementation consultant here at Lytho, joining us. And lucky for you, she's going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting and talking today. So if we want to go to the next slide, before we jump in, just a little background. I have a customer success manager background, so I hate one-way conversations. So if you will help me out today by adding your questions to our Q&A, let's keep it conversational, let's keep it light, and have a good time today. So what you're all here for, what is our topic of the month? It's a little bit different from what we normally do, and we are going to talk about creative conundrums and asset assumptions. So really starting to debunk myths about like the workflow and DAM. Kelly and I are both on the customer success side, so we get to hear a lot of the assumptions and questions our customers ask. So we thought it would be a little bit of fun to add a game into today's session and give you a little snapshot of some assumptions and myths that we get to hear on a day-to-day. Sound good?
I love it. Are you ready to jump in?
I'm ready if you are.
All right, let's do it.
Awesome. Today's first myth or assumption is requests cannot be updated once they are accepted.
And the really fun answer for this is that is false. So let's jump into a little bit of a demo. My stakeholder came in and submitted a request for their Halloween festival for this year. We have all of our dates going. We can see in our active request everything that's going on. But what happens if something about this request changes, right? Maybe we need a new size, or the date has changed, the scope of the project has changed to some extent. So as an admin, I can control that. I can actually come in and put in a change request, or my stakeholder can even do that and come in and bring in this change request. Once they do that, they're able to come in and make whatever changes they need. So maybe this needs to be larger. Those changes are going to light up orange, not only for our stakeholders, but once it's submitted, when our admins come back in and this refreshes, they'll be able to see in the overview what has changed and accept or decline this request, right? And remember, by accepting, we're good to go. It's going to track your number of versions. So we can see in the overview that version 2 is submitted. It's going to show version 3, 4, 5, however many you all are going through. Hopefully it doesn't get to that big of a number. Or they can always decline. And that same, conversation would happen, right? If they decline, they need to give a reason. And you can continue using this comment section as that single source of truth to figure out what's going on.
I hope we don't get to 5 change requests.
I know. Okay, so what's our next myth?
Projects with groups are the same thing as campaigns.
So this is a trick question because they're not the same thing. They can be used in similar ways, but they're not exactly the same thing. So let's hop back in to workflow. And I've actually pulled up a social media project where we've separated out, and I was playing with this earlier, but let's change this to something like September. So maybe these are all of the posts that we need for September for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Maybe these are October's posts. So we can use these groups to organize all these different types of tasks or proofs. This is really great if you know the same people are going to be working on it every time. And you kind of want to do it just on a yearly basis. It's going to have one due date. That's the end of the year. We don't really need to track a whole bunch of information about when each monthly project starts and ends. Now, if that's not the case, and you want to separate things out a little bit more into who's working on it, we want to be able to report specifically on what happened in September, or specifically what happened in October. That's where the campaign is going to come in handy, because now we can still have groups, but we can have a project for each month. We could have a group for each month, and a project for Facebook, a project for LinkedIn, a project for email, depending on who's working on it. And then we can have our different members inside each of these projects. We can individualize tags for them We can individualize the due dates and really dial in a little bit more on that reportable information. So while both processes will work, they are not the same. So it will just depend on what your team wants to pull in.
Love a trick question. So it sounds like it depends on what's important to the team, but
Yeah, I think
campaigns
so.
give you a lot more control over some of the reportable data.
That's kind of how I would look at it. Yeah.
Awesome. We do have a question. Anonymous attendee. Is there a way I can add a deliverable or file after the job has been completed? I can't see any job / any file on my dashboard. Is it related to access? I don't have access.
So I think I might need a little bit more information when you say you can't see a deliverable. So is it that you can't see the final project or you can't see the final deliverable in the completed request?
We'll wait for an answer. But Kelly, can you tell us if we can add a deliverable after a
Sure.
project or campaign has been completed?
Sure. So even once your completed projects, let me hop into one. I'm not sure what's in here, so hang with me. So what I've done is I've set up a view that pulls all of my completed projects. And so what might be happening in your My Projects is it's defaulting to specific stages. So it may have just fallen off your radar. I created a custom view for my completed projects. So this allows me to kind of go back in, see what happened, what the tasks were. I can absolutely come in and add a file here. I can drag and drop. I could potentially move it to the DAM if I needed to, mark it as a deliverable. So all of that is still available here. It may just be that your view is either dropping off your completed files, because that's how it behaves by default, or dropping off your archived, not files, projects, which is also how that works. So even with these completed projects, if your best practice is to complete and then archive, what you could do is actually clear this out so that you're seeing both archived and non-archived completed projects. If you have multiple completed statuses, you could even hone in even more on what these different views are. But you should absolutely be able to go back into your completed projects and add a file. Let me know if there's any follow-up questions there.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question. They said thanks, so I think so.
Okay, cool.
So we can move on to the next. But if you guys have questions, please add them to the Q&A. We are happy to dig in.
Yeah, awesome. So this next one,
Our third one,
yeah,
moving and grooving. You can bulk change start or due dates after they've been set.
true. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. So I'm going to hop back in to my projects, and I'm actually going to go ahead and come back into the social media one we were looking at because I can see all my September dates are overdue. So there's two different ways you can do this. You can adjust these dates from your table view. You can select everything. You can come in and select specific dates here. If you click this date button here down at the bottom, you're able to shift start, due, or both forward or backward by any specific number of days. So if we set this to, let's do something, it's Friday, let's do something like 8 days, and then review that. Oh, I didn't have it. I don't have start dates loaded in here, but if I did, it would move it forward. So it is letting me know that there are some issues here. So let's pick a new start date. So it's going to let me know what's going on, that it's after my current due date. So I may want to go back and pick a different due date rather than a start date. But it'll show me my potential issues. And it's also going to let you know that it's moving it past weekends. So it's moving it forward business days, just for you to be aware of it that's doing that. Another way that we can move these is to come into our Gantt view. And then if we come back to these September dates, if I wanted to move all of these, I could actually click on the top one, hold shift on my keyboard, click all the way down to the bottom and shift all of these. If it's just a handful of dates, I can hold control and still click multiples at the same time, move them the same amount. So a few different ways you can come in. And then of course, individually, you can always click into the task or proof and change those start or due dates.
I think it is important to note that we have expanded that Gantt view to many different areas within the platform, so it's not just within a project. So check that out. We do have a question. Does that automatically calculate business days, which you did answer?
Yes.
Bulk shifting does respect business days from the first example. Gantt views, you would need to pay attention to those business days. They are indicated on your calendar. They're grayed out, but if you are moving everything in a unified fashion, it should probably respect that unless you've got a random holiday in there.
Right. And when you do in your account settings, when you set your company's non-business days, it's going to respect those as well. So if you have company holidays or, company get-togethers where you're closed for that day, as long as it's loaded into the system, it's going to recognize those as well.
Kelly, would you be able to show how you shift those due dates again? Crystal is saying, I'm not seeing the option to mass shift them.
Sure.
So could you go into that table view example?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I can see, and I will pick the correct option this time too, so that it makes a little bit more sense. So when we're looking at all of these overdue dates in the table view specifically, you should have these check boxes over here on the left to be able to come in and select which tasks or proofs you need to move bulk shift forward. You'll have options down here at the bottom to bulk archive, unarchive, which is fantastic, but we're looking at shifting these dates. I'm going to shift these due dates and I want to move them forward. So let's move these forward by 7 days and then review those dates. So again, this is letting me know, okay, September has completely passed. So I haven't moved it forward quite far enough. It's showing me that those are potential issues. It's also letting me know how many days forward and how many work items. And then it's letting me know that it's been automatically shifted if it falls on a non-business day. I can choose to send notifications to everyone that's assigned to these tasks or proofs so that they're aware of this scope change. And then if I'm ready, I can go ahead and confirm these changes. And then I'll see that these dates have now shifted. They're in a different order in my checklist now.
I hope that helps, Crystal. For some reason, I don't have the dates options, only archive on archive. It looks like Nick's jumping in for you. It might be a specific issue.
Maybe it's a settings problem.
Denise wants to know, can you bulk add dates?
That's a good question, Brett. Can you bulk add dates in here? I feel like
I would say the best option for bulk adding dates would be from your Gantt view. You can click a little bit easier. It's not going to do it, you still have to click one by one, but it's a little bit faster than that date picker, in my opinion. It saves you a couple
having to go into each task and do that is probably using Gantt view will be the best option.
Yes, we can take that as additional feedback though, Denise. And then Steve, I see your wish around assigning priorities in bulk, so we can take that as a wish as well.
Awesome.
And yes, these sessions are going to be recorded to rewatch, so hopefully you get some good nuggets to take back to the team. And we can, I think, keep going. Kelly, I think we've got all the questions answered.
Awesome. So let's look at our next myth. Looks like this one's for the dam.
Yeah, throwing in the dam in here. Brand guides are only used for traditional brand documentation. So we're thinking fonts, logos, colors, type. Is that true or false?
That's absolutely false. You can use the Brand Center in so many different ways. Truly, if you need to share any kind of information out, the sky is the limit. Sort of. So if we come back over, I'll move over into my Brand Center. I've actually gone ahead and pulled up a few for us because I took a sneak look at the myths, y'all. But you can see here that we have actually outlined a complete campaign. So we've brought in the purpose of this campaign, goals and objectives, budgets, digital information, so where we're going to link it to, we could potentially even put the finalized posts in these buttons once they're done, so we can link directly over to them. And then, of course, we do have some branding imagery that we want to use. You can include budgets in here. So we got overall specific channel budgets. So as you're presenting these, as you're sharing them potentially with maybe external media partners, or any external agencies that are going to be helping you organize this campaign and put it together, this is how you can give that easily over to them. I know a lot of places probably have their own forms, but if they're looking for additional information, additional dates, this is where you can come in and drop that, share it easily with them. And then if things change, when you update this brand guide, the campaign guide, is going to update on their end as well. And so it's a really nice way to keep you all on the same page. Another really great way we've seen teams using this is actually to come in and put in some standard operating procedures, some different tutorials. Maybe it's really hard to find on their intranet. And so they wanted a more concise place, an easier way to come in and reference these pieces. And so they've come in and created, this one is how to request work in Lytho. So how to put in a request. Maybe at the bottom of this, we add how to add a change request, right? I know we've got some old artwork here, but the overall process is still going to be the same. So this is how, stepping through how to do all of these things. This could be a great place to drop those training materials once you launch workflow, once you launch the dam. You could do little video walkthroughs. You can do screen grabs like this, and then set up those image and text. So no, it is not just for brand guides alone. It is a brand center. It is a way for you to communicate everything about what you're doing, and what your procedures are to the rest of your stakeholders and end users.
Amazing. Thinking outside of the box, which we always
Yeah.
love. We do have one question. How can I get the brand center? And no, I didn't plant that question. Anonymous attendee, you can reach out to either your CSM if you have one, or you can reach out to resources@lytho.com and we'll get you some assistance. I would like, before we get to our next myth, I have gotten a few questions privately, some shy people. Thinking back to the bulk adding dates,
Mhm.
we missed a key opportunity, Kelly, to talk about automatic date calculations in project
Oh, we
templates.
did. We did miss our opportunity to do that. So automatic date calc, do you want me just to talk to it? Do you want me, I don't know if
Yeah,
we want to
that
pull up a
works.
template and build it or anything, but when you're putting together your different project templates, there is the opportunity to bring in automatic date calculation. And so what that's going to allow you to do is have these tasks and proofs every time you bring in this type of project from a template, automatically populate what's going on based on your start date or your due date. And again, if we're using due date to calculate these, as we're getting requests from our stakeholders, they're doing all the hard work for us by putting in the due date, and then these tasks and proofs are going to go ahead and populate. It's going to work the same way as if we accept our request and the date says, hey, maybe you should have started this earlier. It's still going to allow us to do that. It's just going to show these dates in red. So that's when we can come back in, look at the tasks that are considered overdue, determine a priority. So maybe this is a rush, have those different conversations, and then bulk date shift those other tasks so that they make a little bit more sense inside of our project.
Beautiful. I struggle with math, so auto date calculations are really helpful for me.
And it's all done on the Gantt chart too. So you can put in numbers, but it's going to show you in your Gantt view when you're setting up your project templates, what that looks like. So you get a really fantastic visualization of what's going on in your project before you even publish that template. So it's really nice to be able to come in and see those features.
Awesome. Sandy, I see you lost audio. I have confirmation that others can hear us, so it may be your computer. Maybe drop and rejoin. That may help. And then, is there a document on how to do this, referring to auto date calculation? Yes, we have information on our knowledge base about that. We
And
have
you
a
can navigate to the knowledge base just by clicking on this little question mark here. It'll bring you over to our knowledge base.
Awesome. And we do have a little fairy in the background posting links, so I bet they will be nice enough to find that for you and post it in the chat. I do have one more question that I was asked behind the scenes, if you don't mind,
I
Kelly.
don't mind.
And it is back on change requests.
Okay.
So we talked a little bit about, or maybe we didn't talk about, that you can accept and decline change requests.
We did talk about that. Yes.
The question is, can you decline a change request, or does that decline the whole request?
Well, let's find out. If we come in and decline this, it looks to me like we're specifically declining that change request. So let's put this in and just say, maybe we're out of 11 by 17 paper. That's such a terrible reason, but here we go. So now we can decline this change request. My original request is still here. It's also going to show me the history on what's going on. So if I open this, it's going to show me why. But let's come over and see what our stakeholder is going to see when that happens. They're going to see the same thing. They're getting this update here that version 2 was declined. I can see why from here. And so now I could come in and potentially put in another change request for a more appropriate size. Maybe it's a custom size. Maybe I want to make it smaller, whatever I need to do. I could potentially even come in and change this design direction to say, hey, can you make this double-sided? Since I can't do an 11 by 17, let's make it a 2-pager. Let's do front and back. So it gives our stakeholder the opportunity to come in and make those changes, have those conversations here, throw some ideas back and forth, and then move forward from there.
Beautiful. So just because they submit a change request does not mean the team has to jump through hoops to complete that. There is still full control on the creative team to decline and continue on the original efforts.
Exactly.
All right. I think we are ready for our next myth.
Okay. Let's hop into that.
I can request my users to upload assets without leaving the Lytho dam.
That's true. And it's a really, really great feature. So let me come back over and hop into just my asset manager. So when I'm in my dam, I'm in my asset manager proper. I have a little button here that's called request for upload. And so this is something I can click to come in and choose a valid date. So if I potentially wanted to send out a request for upload to someone externally without ever leaving my dam, maybe it's an event photographer or someone from my sales or business unit is out in an event and I want them to send the images over, but they have a finite amount of time because I'm going to post all this at a certain date. Anything after that, it's done. I don't need it. I can set this valid date. I can also name it. So maybe we'll just stick, it's October, so we'll just go ahead and name what's going on. This is what we're going to name our upload link. And this just gives us a way to get back to it, figure out what's going on. Could add a description. So if I was looking for specific types of photos, maybe I don't want specific photos. I'm not a huge fan of clowns. So if I'm at a Halloween event, I certainly don't want you sending me a whole bunch of pictures of clowns, which now that I've said out loud, I know people that know me on this call are going to start sending me clown pictures. So thank you for that. But you also could add direction here. For those of you that have used this feature before, you know when you upload your images to this request for upload, it's not automatically sending them. You still need to input your email and hit submit. So maybe we want to add some instructions here for people that haven't used it before. However you want to use this description field is completely up to you. Your end users will see it. You could create a link if this is going into an email or a newsletter or something like that. But if we truly don't want to leave the asset manager, you can go ahead and bulk input all of the email addresses this shared link needs to go to. Added bonuses to using this feature is that I can go ahead and pre-tag these. So I know that this is an event. I know it's photos. Maybe I know it's Halloween. I want to come in and add all of those different tags here. I can go ahead and do that. I can even add this tag. I'm going to go ahead and put this as uncategorized for now instead of boring you as I walk through and figure out what's going on. So once I add that tag, I can come in and pre-tag everything that's going on here. If there are only certain people that need to be able to see these images, I can also pre-tag on permissions. This is a company Halloween event, so I'm not really worried about permissioning it out. I think everyone can use these. But if it was a surprise, maybe just the event photo people need to see this. So I could come in and add that permission. I'm going to go ahead and create and copy this link just so I can kind of show you a little more clearly what I meant about putting the actual images in and then hitting submit. I'm going to add a tab here and paste this request for uploads. This is what your end user is going to see. So they can come in and upload from their computer, drag and drop an image file. So maybe I want to send over a PDF about this event. So I can see that it has loaded. It's telling me that it's 100% finished and I can see it. A lot of people are going to think that this is done. They've sent their image, and that's not necessarily the case. We're going to want to make sure to come in, let them know they need to put their email address in here, and then they can send this uploaded asset. It is going to go to the waiting room of the person who created the request for upload. And so then they can come in to their waiting room, look for their approvals requested. It's going to come in here from that. And it'll come to the bottom. I have a lot of things that need to load though. I'm not the best example. My waiting room's a little bit busy, Britt, but it'll come in here. You'll be able to go through all of those images, decide what you want to accept and decline. You can add more tags, more permissions, visibility, publish dates, details, add it to a collection, do everything that you need to do from here, and then save it into your asset manager.
Beautiful. We do have one question from Denise. Is there an option for those doing the uploading to add a message with their photo?
Not at the moment, but you are not the only person that has asked that. So I will take that on my to-do list for you, Denise.
Awesome. A really good example of using the copy link is Lytho had a random conference last year in North Carolina called Lythopia, and a lot of staff takes photos. So being able to collect those images and see, the conference through employees' eyes is a cool use of that option.
You also can set that date really, really far in the future too. So if you're not worried about pre-tagging and you're not worried about permissions and you just need to place a quick placeholder that people can really quickly get to, you could always redirect a website link to that and just have that live in perpetuity for emergency situations. With the tagging and permission capabilities, I feel like that's always going to be the better option. But because you can set that date so far in the future, you could potentially have a quote permanent request for upload link. Not being able to send messages about what the photos are though, does kind of present a problem. So definitely
I'll just
recommend doing.
randomly share clown photos with Kelly.
Yeah, no, please don't. Please don't.
Awesome. We don't have any other questions about that. We do have one question in the chat, but I'm going to hold it to the end because it is a little off topic from our last myth, but we can get to it, Sandy.
All right, awesome. Well, let's see if we've got anything else.
Last one is a little bit of a shameless plug. I won't be able to see my Lytho me's in person this year, aka other Lytho customers, Lytho employees, socializing within the Lytho network.
False.
Big fat false. We have a lot of events coming up in person. If you go to the next slide, Kelly, we actually do have dates, locations, and topics of where we'll be. And our lovely Link Fairy has posted our events page that provides more information on what'll be covered in those different sessions. So come see us and come see other Lytho customers that are also in the same, thank you, Fairy, same position that you are implementing and using Lytho on a daily basis.
Awesome.
And then we don't have a shameless plug for our live sessions, but I also am going to shamelessly plug those because it is a little passion of mine. We have implemented office hours for Lytho workflow, tempo, and then we do have monthly new user training for Divi HQ. So if you do like more of a conversational event, maybe not in person, but we will meet you on your couch every month to talk about those topics. So make sure you are registering for those as well.
Yeah. And that's the final slide I have, Britt. So if you want to throw that final question at me, we can brainstorm our way through it.
Yes. Okay. So Sandy wants to review the new time from functionality for projects within campaigns. So we recently, with our last release, which was, I guess, a week or two ago, released the two new data points for projects that live within campaign, and those are time from. So time from acceptance to first proof, and then also time from acceptance to first proof. Something around there. So there's two time frames. Could you show those, Kelly? It would
Sure.
be in the projects report.
Yes. You
So the
said
key
project
with
reports?
this is your campaign has to start from a request. So if your campaign does not start from a request, you will not see, obviously, the time from acceptance to first proof data point. So key part of that.
Let me find one really quickly. See if I can. Britt, I'm not sure if I have a campaign request at the moment, so I might need to throw one in here really quickly so we can look at that information, but we won't have those details. Can you think of one off the top of your head?
Yeah, let me take a look. I think I have something in one of my test accounts. So one thing also to note about the time metrics are they are part of our duration metrics, which only update twice a day, 6 a.m., 6 p.m. Eastern time. So even if Kelly does some behind the scenes to get this magic working, we won't actually be able to show it to you on this conversation. But that's okay. I do have, I think, an example in one of my accounts. So let me see if I can pull that up for you, Sandy. All right.
Let me know when you're ready to share your screen and I can stop mine.
Just one more second, bear with me. Okay, I've got it.
All right, I'm going to stop my share.
I'm gonna steal the screen.
Bounce over to you.
Okay, can you guys see my screen? I'm gonna take that as a yes because you can't respond to me. Okay, so I am in a projects report. So that's our first barrier. I have added a filter for a specific campaign. You do not have to do this, but this is just going to give me a smaller data set to not confuse anyone. And then there are two new time from metrics. So time from acceptance to first proof and time from request to acceptance. So when was it submitted to when it was accepted? And then when was it accepted to the first proof going out within that project? So again, these metrics update twice a day. So if you see it stagnant for a period of time, it is still functioning properly. It just, as you can imagine, would need to be constantly updated every second, every minute, every hour of the day. Does that help answer your question, Sandy? Was there anything specific you wanted to look at beyond that? Why should I care about that metric? That's a really good question. So I think there are a couple of reasons why you would care. So specifically from time from request to acceptance, how long is it taking the team to triage requests? So if your stakeholder is getting things in, even on a timely manner with all of the perfect information that you need, if the team isn't looking at it in an appropriate amount of time, Does it really help you stay on SLA, stay on timelines? And then the unique instance where, you don't have all of the information you need, and then you've waited 2 weeks to look at the request. Well, you've already started to cut into your creative team's time, but now you have to go back to the requester and ask more questions, which is going to cut even more into your time. I have a CSM background, so I have gotten to work with a lot of accounts that are Lytho customers. And a lot of them also have SLAs that they've committed to their requesters on how long it'll take for them to triage and look at a request. So if you have that SLA and then you start looking at this metric and you realize, oh no, we aren't actually hitting that. We're not meeting our commitment to our requesters. Can you hold them to their deadlines if you're not sticking to yours? From time from acceptance to first proof, again, that talks to, are you meeting your SLAs, service level agreements? How long are certain items taking? So this can help you start to backtrack your level of effort, your time tracking, even what your SLAs are. So maybe you don't have a set of agreements yet, and you don't know how to think about timelines and deadlines. These can help you start to backtrack those dates and really start to put processes and documentation into place.
And I wouldn't take it just a step further too, Brett, because I was a customer before I came to Lytho. And we had multiple acceptors on a lot of our different forms when we first brought everything in. And of course, as that changed, as people found their specialties, as we kind of redirected and reassigned work within inside our department, there were a few forms that were still kind of getting lost in translation, and we just weren't accepting them fast enough because everyone was kind of assuming someone else was taking on that piece. And so by being able to look at that timing metric, it would really have helped us say, okay, these are the ones that are falling through the cracks. Let's reevaluate these forms. Let's find one key point of contact. This person is always responsible. And so that way, even those conversations that are going on, your requester knows who to ask if something looks like it's going over. And so just kind of relating that real life experience. I would have loved this metric as a customer because I could have been like, oh, I'm really sorry that our newsletters are always kind of running over where they should be. That's definitely on me. But the request wasn't coming to me as an acceptor. And so we needed to go in and update that form.
Yeah, and I do think it is interesting because we did have this metric for projects that were not associated to campaigns. So there was a little bit of a gap in the information that we were providing. So we have teams that are already using these metrics. So now they can take it a step further and also look at their campaigns, which could be a big portion of their projects. I think we have answered everything around that. If someone is no longer working on projects, is there an easy way to reassign their work? That one's from Linda.
So the short answer is if you're using specialties in your project templates, then yes, absolutely. You can use that. You can assign the specialty itself to tasks in your project template. And then when you are are you still sharing your screen, Brett, or do you want me to?
I have not. I stopped sharing.
Okay, excellent. So let me reshare my screen and we'll just kind of we'll look at this together. And of course, now I need to readjust all of my windows. Okay, so if we are potentially in a project, we'll come into, let's just add a project. We'll do a new one. I'm going to grab this flyer because I'm pretty sure it uses specialties. Okay. So once I've created this project, because I've selected it from a template, I have come in and I can see that in the template, I've assigned specialties. It's our little confetti over here to all of these tasks. If you are creating an ad hoc project, You absolutely can assign specialties to this instead of a specific person. And then you can always come back over here and assign. But what this is going to allow us to do is come in and choose this copywriter. It's going to automatically assign to all of the tasks that this person is responsible for. I'll do the same thing for my designer. And it's going to assign to all of the tasks that my designer is responsible for. By using this specialty, maybe Chris is completely overwhelmed and I need to move that workload. And I need to move all of them, right, Linda? So now I can come in and say, okay, I'm going to reassign this to Britt. She's my new designer. She is going to get reassigned to all of these tasks and get the notification that she's been added to them. So, well, yes, I did do this from a template because that's the easiest way for me to make sure my work is, recurring and consistent. I do flyers all the time. But if I needed to create a project ad hoc, as I'm adding tasks and proofs, I can always come in and add an additional specialty here. Or I can add an individual person if it's the same person every single time. But by using specialties, they'll pop up over here and then you can bulk reassign inside those projects.
And Kelly, you can only do this by project, individual projects, not across all active projects, correct?
What do you mean?
You can only apply specialties within a project, not within all projects. So if you change a specialty in one project, it's not going to impact
Oh,
others.
correct. So if you have multiple projects inside of campaigns or you've got designers in several different types of projects, no, it's just going to do it for the one project that you're in. So only in this 3L, I have other flyer designs. Those designers still have the work that was originally assigned to them. Yes.
Awesome. And we do have one more question. I know we are getting close on time. This one's from Ashley. I have an unrelated question, which is very welcome. Not sure if it's possible to answer here, but is it possible to easily select multiple project templates and combine into a new single template that encompasses the selected templates? So using multiple project templates within a single project. I think the key here could be copying or moving groups. So you would have to create. Actually, I think the best way would be to create multiple projects using those project templates and then moving the groups within your template into one single project, and then you could save that as a new template. It may be a little convoluted to try and show here with the time remaining, but I will reach out to your CSM, Ashley, and we can get a demo or a short clip of how to do that sent over. Hopefully that helps and will answer your question.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and stop sharing then. Unless anyone else popped a question in.
We do have one more. Could you bulk reassign that individual's work via a resource planning type of view? That one's from Karen.
So potentially in like the workload view?
That's what it sounds like. So reassigning specialties within a different view, not within that project.
Okay, so this may not be the best view. I don't have a lot of work in this system, but I can see the full workload for my team here. So I can see all of their different tasks. While I can't drag and drop, I would be able to come in and click into this task to reassign from this workload view. So if I potentially had my team or just my designers in here, I would be able to look at their workload and reassign from the task. It's going to keep me in the workload view. So while it's not in bulk necessarily the way that you're asking, I think this could be a good way for you to come in and see your team's workload together to determine where things need to go. So we can look at it by tasks and proofs. So at the work level, we also can look at it from a level of effort. In the level of effort view, I do just want to point out that it's going to divide this evenly across the number of days that it has. So we've got a total of 8 hours between these two tasks, and I can see that it's evenly divided here. If it were assigned to 2 people, it's also going to split that time in half. So as you're looking at workload, just keeping those nuances in mind as you're shifting that workload around. That sure, we've got 2 people working on it. It's going to take 4 hours, but maybe one person is checks and balances and one person's actively working on it. So just knowing where your team is sitting and who's truly responsible for those pieces will help you reorganize this workload as well.
Awesome. And then one more quick and easy question just to round out our session. Can you show how to create a template from a live project? So say we've
Yeah.
spent all this time creating the perfect project and we're like, oh gosh, this would be a perfect template. Can you show
Yeah,
how to do that really
absolutely. So we built out this social media content project. We've been playing around with it. It's fantastic. And I want to use it for every quarter moving forward. All I have to do is come up to my menu here at the top and click Publish as Template. And so now you can name this template. It's going to save that information. If we had specialties assigned in here, it's going to bring that over. But let's just call this our social media, do quarterly social media. And we can publish that template. So now when we come over to our templates, I can see my quarterly social media here. Keep in mind, it's grabbed everything. So it's grabbed who my users are specifically for this project. So if I wanted to edit this template so that these are specialties, I can do that. I can see that I've lost all of my dates here. And so that's where that auto date calculation could really come in handy. We can come in and stipulate when we want all of these to be posted, if they need start dates and due dates, when those are going to happen, what the time range needs to be. And like we mentioned, we're going to send that article out to the person that asked for it, but you will do it from this Gantt view and you'll just choose how you want to calculate those dates. There are 4 different options. And that's where you'll come in and put all of this in. And so once your due date is assigned in your request, if you're using that, then it's going to use auto date calculations to calculate the start date, and then it'll fill in all the individual tasks and proofs. It is kind of a process to walk through, so I'm not going to do that right now. But once you're done making all of those different changes, if you want to auto tag this with social, if you want to pin any of your custom fields to the front, all of that information is going to hold in your template, and then you can just publish those changes. And then you can use it as often as you want. And remember, these are templates. They're 80% correct most of the time. If you need to add tasks, add to proofs, add new people, change priorities, change tags, you have the capability to do that. They are templates in the truest sense of the word.
And we have gotten a wow, love this from Andrea. So I think that is the perfect stopping point for today's session.
Can do
Thanks
that.
for spending a little bit of your Friday with us. I hope you have a lovely weekend and we'll see you in November.